The holographic chains materialized around Kyra's wrists with a soft hum, their blue light casting shadows across the council chamber's obsidian walls. She stood tall despite them, her crimson skin flushed darker with barely contained rage, the bioluminescent markings along her neck pulsing in agitated patterns. Kyra Velmoth of the 7th Fleet, the head arbiter's voice echoed through the vast space. You have been found guilty of unauthorized engagement with the KRLL warships, resulting in the destruction of civilian property valued at— They were slavers, Kyra interrupted, her voice sharp as broken glass. I saved those people. You violated protocol. The arbiter's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, emotionless. Your sentence, 6 lunar cycles assigned to a human guardian on Earth. You will live by their rules, learn their restraint. Kyra's laugh was bitter. You're sending a warrior to live with prey species? This is exile, not punishment. This is mercy, the arbiter corrected. The alternative is dissolution of your neural patterns. Do you accept? The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the energy field surrounding her. Kyra's jaw clenched, sharp teeth grinding together. She thought of the void, of ceasing to exist entirely. Her pride warred with her survival instinct. I accept. 3 days later, she stood outside a modest apartment building in Seattle, Earth. Rain fell in steady sheets, the planet seemed to leak constantly, and her assigned clothing felt strange against her skin. The council had suppressed most of her enhanced abilities, leaving her feeling vulnerable, weak. The door opened. He wasn't what she expected. Most humans she'd encountered were either terrified or aggressive when meeting her kind. This one, James Reeves, according to her datapad, simply looked at her with calm, gray eyes that reminded her of the storm clouds overhead. You're early, he said, stepping aside. Come in. You must be freezing. I don't feel cold the same way you, she started but stopped. His apartment was warm, softly lit. Books lined the walls. A cup of tea steamed on a small table. I know, he said quietly. But you're still soaked. There's a towel in the bathroom, first door on the right. Take your time. He returned to his seat by the window, picking up a worn book, giving her space. Not ordering her. Not leering at her exotic appearance. Just existing alongside her. Kyra stood dripping in his entryway, suddenly unsure. In all her years as a warrior, commanding respect through strength and ferocity, no one had ever offered her simple kindness without wanting something in return. She found herself walking toward the bathroom, the holographic anklet on her leg, her tracker, glowing softly in the dim hallway. Behind her, she heard James turn a page. There's also clean clothes in there, he called out. They might be big, but they're dry. Kyra paused, her hand on the doorframe, and felt something shift inside her chest. Something small but undeniable. This was going to be more complicated than she thought. The first week was a careful dance of avoidance. Kyra claimed the small guest room, spending most of her time studying Earth's customs through the datapad the council had provided. James kept his distance, leaving meals outside her door, never pressing her to talk. But Seattle forced them together. On the 8th day, James knocked softly. I need to go to the market. You should come. The council wants you integrated. Kyra emerged reluctantly, wearing loose human clothes that hid most of her markings. The city assaulted her senses, so many humans packed together, their scents and sounds overwhelming after the controlled environments of her ship. A teenager bumped into her, an instinct flared. Her hand shot out, gripping his wrist with enough force to make him yelp. Kyra. James's voice was calm but firm. Let go. She looked at the boy's frightened face, then at James. Slowly, she released him. Sorry, James told the teenager. She's not from around here. You okay? The boy nodded and hurried away. James turned to Kyra, but there was no anger in his expression. This is going to take practice. I don't need practice, she snapped. I need to go home. Then let's get through these 6 months. He started walking, and after a moment, she followed. At the market, she watched him interact with vendors, the easy smiles, the small negotiations, the way he touched the produce carefully to assess ripeness. He moved through his world with quiet confidence, no weapons, no armor, yet somehow, unafraid. How do you survive? She asked suddenly. You're kind. So soft. So vulnerable. James picked up an apple, examining it. We find different ways to be strong. He handed it to her. Try this. She bit into it skeptically, then paused. The sweetness exploded across her tongue, complex and unexpected. Good, he asked, a hint of smile on his lips. Acceptable, she admitted. That night, she found him on the apartment's small balcony, looking out at the city lights. Rain had given way to clear skies, rare for Seattle. "Why did you agree to this?" she asked, stepping outside. "Taking an A. What did the council call me? A disciplinary case?" James was quiet for a moment. "My sister was saved by someone like you once. A Velmoth warrior who didn't have to help her, but did. She died doing it." He glanced at her. "I figured I owed the universe something." Kyra felt her markings pulse with emotion. She didn't want a name. "Your sister?" "Lived. Married now, 2 kids." He smiled softly. The warrior's name was inscribed on their family altar. Celia Velmoth. The name hit her like plasma fire. "Celia was my squadron leader. My mentor." Her voice cracked. "She died on a rescue mission 5 years ago. We never knew if anyone survived." James turned to face her fully. "She did. My sister did." The space between them felt charged, significant. Kyra's careful walls trembled. "I should go inside," she whispered. But she didn't move. Neither did he. "You know," James said softly, "you don't have to punish yourself for being who you are." Something in his words broke through her defenses. Before she could stop herself, tears, bioluminescent and silver, tracked down her cheeks. James reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his thumb gently wiped a tear away. His touch was warm, careful, reverent. "Beautiful," he murmured, watching the silver light trail on his skin. Kyra's breath caught. Her hand rose, covering his, holding it against her face. Her markings flared brighter, responding to his proximity, to the tenderness she'd been starving for without knowing it. "James," she breathed, and the way she said his name, full of wonder and want, made him step closer. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his other hand sliding to her waist. Instead, she pulled him closer, closing the distance between them. Their first kiss was hesitant, exploratory, 2 different species learning each other's language. Kyra's lips were warmer than human, her skin carrying a subtle electrical charge that made James's nerves sing. He gasped against her mouth, and she swallowed the sound, deepening the kiss with newfound hunger. "We shouldn't," he started when they broke apart, both breathing hard. "I know," she agreed, but her hands were already sliding under his shirt, tracing the muscles of his back. Her touch left faint, glowing trails on his skin, harmless, temporary, beautiful. James backed her against the balcony door, his kisses moving to her neck, finding the pulsing markings there. When his lips touched them, Kyra made a sound, half gasp, half moan, that sent heat rushing through him. "Sensitive?" he murmured against her skin. "Yes," she breathed, tilting her head to give him better access. "Don't stop." His hands explored the curves of her waist, the strong planes of her abdomen. She was muscle and power, but she trembled under his touch, and that vulnerability undid him. Kyra pulled him inside, slamming the door closed. They stumbled through the dark apartment, shedding clothes between kisses. Her fingers were surprisingly gentle as she unbuttoned his shirt, though he could feel the restrained strength in them. "I could hurt you," she warned, even as her hands roamed his chest. "I trust you," he replied, and meant it completely. They fell into his bed in a tangle of limbs. James took his time, mapping her body with hands and mouth, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into him. Her markings grew brighter with arousal, illuminating the room in soft crimson and gold light. When he kissed down her sternum, following the constellation of bioluminescence across her ribs, she gripped the sheets hard enough to tear them. "James," she panted, "I need." "I know," he murmured, moving back up to capture her mouth. "Me too." They moved together slowly at first, learning each other's rhythms. Kyra wrapped her powerful legs around him, her strength evident even in restraint. She could have overpowered him easily, but instead she yielded, trusting him with her pleasure. "Look at me," James whispered, and when her eyes opened, those striking golden eyes, he felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't just physical. It had stopped being just physical the moment she'd first stepped into his apartment. Kyra's climax was spectacular, her markings flaring so bright that James had to close his eyes. The electrical charge in her skin intensified, sending waves of pleasure through him that triggered his own release. They collapsed together, sweating and trembling. James pulled a blanket over them as Kyra's glow slowly faded to its normal luminescence. "That was..." she started. "Yeah," he agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. She curled into him, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Outside, the city hummed with life, but in this small room, they existed in their own universe. "For more months," she whispered, and he heard the fear beneath the words. His arms tightened around her. "We'll figure it out." But neither of them believed it would be that simple. 3 months passed like a beautiful dream teetering on a nightmare's edge. They fell into domesticity, sharing meals, watching old movies, making love in every corner of the apartment. James taught Kyra to cook pasta. She taught him basic combat forms. They laughed more than either had in years. But the anklet's glow was a constant reminder. This wasn't forever. The council's check-in came on a Tuesday morning. Kyra stood rigid in the living room as the holographic representative materialized, its form shifting and indistinct. "Status report," it demanded. "Compliant," Kyra said flatly. "I've learned restraint. Integrated with human society." The hologram studied her, then shifted its attention. "James Reeves. Has the subject caused any disturbances?" James stepped forward, his hand finding Kyra's. "No. She's been perfect." The hologram's form flickered. This hand-holding, this intimacy, it was not part of the protocol. "The protocol didn't forbid it," James countered. "Emotional entanglement compromises the punishment's purpose." The hologram turned back to Kyra. "You were sent here to learn isolation, submission to authority." "She's learned cooperation," James argued. "Isn't that better?" "No." The hologram expanded, filling the room with oppressive presence. "Kyra Velmoth, your sentence is being modified. Due to inappropriate fraternization, you will be transferred to a new guardian. Effective immediately." "No!" The word tore from Kyra's throat. Her markings flared bright with distress. "I've followed every rule. You've become compromised. The human has clearly manipulated you emotionally. He's done nothing but treat me with respect." Kyra's voice shook with rage and desperation. "Something your counsel never did." James squeezed her hand. "There has to be a way to appeal this." "There is not." The hologram began to solidify into a transport beam. "Prepare for extraction." Kyra looked at James, her eyes wild with panic. In that moment, he saw her clearly. Not a warrior, not an alien, just someone terrified of losing what they'd found. "Run," he whispered. "What?" "Your abilities are suppressed, but not gone. Fight. Run. Choose yourself." The hologram pulsed with alarm. "Human, you are interfering with." Kyra moved. Her hand shot out, and despite the suppression, enough of her power remained. The hologram shattered into fragments of light. Alarms blared. The anklet on her leg began burning hot, trying to immobilize her. "James," she gasped, falling to her knees. He was already there, examining the device. "It's coded to your neural signature. I can't remove it without destroying my neural patterns." "I know." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "This is it. They'll come for me. They'll dissolve me. Then we go together," he said firmly. "I know people. Underground. They help non-humans escape the councils. You'd become a fugitive? For me?" James cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I love you. I choose you. Every time." The words hung between them, enormous and terrifying and true. Kyra pulled him into a fierce kiss, pouring everything she felt into it. When they broke apart, her markings were blazing with determination. "Then let's run." The safe house was hidden in the mountains outside Portland, accessible only by hiking trails that wound through dense forest. James and Kyra arrived at dawn, exhausted but alive. "They'll track the anklet," Kyra said as they entered the small cabin. A woman waited inside, older, with kind eyes and hands scarred from years of technical work. "I'm Maya," she said. James called ahead. "Let me see the device." Kyra extended her leg. Maya studied the anklet with a practiced eye. "This is going to hurt." "Everything does eventually," Kyra replied. Maya worked for 3 hours, carefully disrupting the device's connection to the council's network without triggering the neural failsafe. Kyra bit down on leather, her markings flashing in pain patterns, sweat soaking her clothes. James held her hand through all of it, whispering encouragement. Finally, the anklet fell away with a soft click. Kyra gasped, then laughed, wild and free. Her suppressed abilities flooded back. The electrical charge in her skin intensified, her strength returned, her senses sharpened to their natural state. She grabbed James and kissed him hard enough to bruise, her relief and joy spilling over. "Easy," he laughed against her mouth. "Super strength, remember?" "Sorry," she murmured, gentling her touch. "I forgot how much I was holding back." Maya smiled. "You two need rest. There's food in the kitchen, a bedroom upstairs. I'll monitor for council activity." They climbed the stairs slowly, exhaustion finally catching up. The bedroom was simple but clean, with a large window overlooking the forest. Kyra stood at the window, watching dawn paint the trees gold. "I'm free," she whispered. "Actually free." James wrapped his arms around her from behind. "We're fugitives now, wanted by one of the most powerful governments in the galaxy." "I know." She turned in his arms. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," he admitted. "But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you." Kyra's markings pulsed with emotion, love, gratitude, fierce protectiveness. "I'll keep you safe. I promise. I know you will." He kissed her softly. "And I'll keep you human. In the good ways." They made love slowly this time, reconnecting after the trauma of almost losing each other. Kyra was careful with her restored strength, but James could feel the difference, the power she wielded, the restraint she chose. It made everything more intense. Afterward, they lay tangled together, watching the forest wake up through the window. "What now?" Kyra asked quietly. "Maya says there's a network. Other mixed couples hiding from various councils and governments. A whole underground community. So we hide forever? Maybe. Or maybe we fight." James propped himself up on an elbow. "There are others like us. People who fell in love across species. Maybe together, we're strong enough to change things." Kyra smiled, a real smile full of hope. "A warrior and a human, challenging galaxy law. They'll write terrible stories about us." "Good," James grinned. "I've always wanted to be a legend." She laughed and pulled him close. Outside, the forest sang with morning birds. Inside, two beings from different worlds held each other and planned their future. 3 months later, they'd connected with 17 other couples. 6 months after that, the network had grown to hundreds. A year later, they sent their first petition to the Galactic Council, demanding recognition of interspecies relationships. The Council ignored them at first. But movements grow in the dark, and love is the most persistent force in any universe. Kyra stood at their new safe house, a larger compound in Montana, watching James teach combat techniques to a group of humans partnered with various alien species. He'd become one of the movement's leaders, his natural diplomacy winning over even the most skeptical. He caught her watching and smiled, that same calm, gray-eyed smile that had first cracked her defenses. She smiled back, her markings glowing warm and bright. What began as punishment had become revolution. What started as exile had become home. And every night, when they lay together under Earth's strange stars, Kyra thanked whatever cosmic force had sent her to him. "I choose you," she'd whisper. "I choose you," he'd reply. And in choosing each other, they'd chosen freedom. The end.